Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Chicken Box. I'm Frances Tony Draper, CEO and publisher of the 131-year-old AFRO News. Afro American Newspapers is the longer name. And we are so glad to have you on today. Let me make this announcement right up front, and I'll say it again at the end. We want to wish well our co-host, Ashley Fields, who has taken another position, and so she's not with us um, any longer, but we certainly want to give a shout out to her for all the time that she did spend on the box. We also want to get a shout out to our co-host, Impeccable, who's on travel on today. But I am excited. I'm excited that we have two amazing journalists on with us today as we talk about um, the boat tragedy. And it wasn't really a boat, and there's a container cargo ship tragedy that happened here in Baltimore, where our company is based. And so we want to talk a little bit about that, what's going on with that, what the latest things are, what people are saying about that. I'm going to give a shout out and thanks to our producer Taryn, that always keeps us keeps us going, keeps us in check, and she'll be posting, I think, some links from the Afro's coverage. And so it's a multi-generational, intergenerational show. And so today I am so happy to have back with us on the box. They are not strangers to the box. They are box pros. Uh, Aria Brent, who's representing Gen Zers, Aria. Okay, Gen Zers, and Alexis Taylor, our managing editor, who I believe is a millennial. But here's what I want to do this. And if you're tuning in anywhere from around the country, if I didn't say it already, welcome. We hope that you will weigh in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want to know that you are with us on today. But I'm going to ask Aria, you first. Introduce yourselves. Give us your elevator pitch kind of bio sketch in a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to go over to you, Alexis. Tell us who you are, Aria Brent. And what
Yes,
you do
ma'am.
here at the Afro. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. So happy to be back on the box. I'm Aria Brent, and I'm an Afro staff writer as well as an Afro digital marketing editor. So I do our Afro cooking live content that you see, any cooking reels. I'm sure you've seen my face talking about, hey, everybody, that's me. And then I get the pleasure of writing about a plethora of things here at the Afro, including this very unfortunate incident with the Francis Key Scott Bridge.
Okay, Francis Scott Key. You want to get a shout out? Give a shout out to your HBU.
Yes, of course. My alma mater, Jackson State University. Shout out to them. Graduation's in a few weeks. And I'm super excited to get down there and show love to all the graduates.
Right, because that was where you were. What last year? Well, you were December grad, I believe, but just not that long ago. So shout out to Jackson State. All right, welcome Aria. We're glad. And another plug for the cooking show. If you've not seen Cooking with Aria, I don't know if that's the name. I just made up a name. It's a it's fabulous. All right, Alexis. You want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexis Taylor, Afro Managing Editor. I stepped into this role last year in January, and I took over from my mentor, Reverend Dorothy Bulware. The Afro is my heart. I started as an intern in 2011. I've been a staff writer, a freelancer, a photographer. So I am just honored to be here today and honored to cover Black news and issues in the community.
All right. And so Alexis is a true example of how you just climb up. She came in as an intern in 2011, and now she is the managing editor, and she's still a millennial, right? So, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that the progression is there. And so we've come today. Or you want to give a shout out to your HBCU as well?
Absolutely. Where the Bears at? Morgan State University class of 2013. I'm not ashamed to say my year. Yes, Morgan State. Thank you for getting me started on this path.
Good. So we have two Bears, Morgan State here as well. If you're watching and you're an HBCU grad, going to weigh in the chat. Let us know who you represent. Today, we really do want to talk about a very, very serious topic. You had to have been under a rock someplace and not know what happened in Baltimore this week, but just in case. And that's not putting anybody down. I'm just saying because of the massive news coverage all over the world, we know that a cargo ship, and I think it weighed like 1 billion pounds or something like that, slammed into an iconic bridge in Baltimore called the Francis Scott Key Bridge that was built in mid 70s, and the entire bridge tumbled and came down. And there were people on the bridge. It was like 1:30 in the morning, and there were people waiting to cross the bridge. And I believe they had like under 2 minutes to respond and react. And so, shout out to the first responders who kept the traffic at bay, kept the traffic back. But unfortunately, people did lose their lives. And there are people who are, it's no longer a search and rescue mission. It's now a salvage mission. And so, to my knowledge, and Alexis, you can bring us up to date, I believe that there are two people who were found alive, and I think there are two people who unfortunately were found deceased, and there are four people that we are still trying to locate just to bring closure to those families. And so I'm curious, and thank you all who are watching. Thank you for putting your HBCUs in there. And we saw a comment about changing the name of the bridge. Don't know that that will happen, but certainly it's not up to us, but we can talk about that. I'm curious, Aria, you are not located in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. You're out of that area. When did you hear about this tragic accident, and what was your first reaction?
I heard about it in the morning. I was about to say, if it happened yesterday, right? Time is moving so fast. I just want to make sure it happened yesterday. I woke up at 7 o'clock and I saw it not even in news. There was a Monday.com alert from Alexis actually asking for the story to be posted online. And so by the time I got to it, somebody else was moving lickety split and had already gotten it done. But that was from mind you, it was 7 a.m. It said 3 hours before. I said, oh, this happened like the middle of the night. So I heard about it, and immediately after that, when I went to go post it and I saw it was already online, I opened up Instagram and it was just everywhere. Like every single news outlet was talking about it. I had checked it from my personal page, from the AFRO page, which of course covers a series of other news outlets, and it was just a continuous thing. And so it was talking about how many people were estimated to be getting, searched for with the whole search and rescue effort. It was talking about when it happened, what had happened, that footage, which obviously, because it's not especially personal, and I say that meaning like you don't see anybody or any vehicles fall into the water, it's not as tragic as it could be, but nonetheless, like minutes before, you see those cars zooming by as you see that ship approaching it. And so it's just like, oh my gosh, like this was real time, this was real life. I thought about how those who made it across the bridge shortly before that ship hit it, how they felt, how much of a blessing I'm sure that was for them, and how relieved they were to have seen quite literally their eyes flash before their lives, or their lives flash before their eyes, because of how quickly it happened.
It did happen quick, and it was Tuesday. It was Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Alexis, how about you? Where were you? What were you doing? What was your reaction once you found out?
Yeah, so this was about, according to the NTSB, they got this call for distress around 1:27. I was about to go to bed, um, and I started getting alerts from people, from friends saying, this just happened. So about 2 o'clock, I was looking at the video that was circling social media. And you're right, Aria. I mean, to see those cars literally zipping across the bridge seconds before this container ship struck that pillar. I mean, I know that I hope that they are, whatever God or higher power they pray to, they're thanking them, because I mean, it's literally a matter of seconds. And so about 2 o'clock, shortly after 2 o'clock, I started writing that story, just seeing what was out there. I was tempted to go down, but it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. So I said, let me stay here and write the story so that we have our coverage up. And yeah, I mean, I'm just shocked. Living here in Baltimore, I didn't use the Key Bridge that often. I probably last was on it about a year and a half ago. But the crazy thing is, when I was on it, I took a little video because I was like, this is just so pretty, driving on the Key Bridge with the sun shining. And I mean, it was a beautiful bridge. When you drove across it on a perfect day, looking out side to side, I mean, it really did give you a beautiful view of Maryland. And so it certainly is a loss. But yeah, we got that coverage out early Tuesday morning. And then Aria and Megan and Tashi, our entire editorial team, joined forces yesterday to make sure that we had the economic impact angle, to make sure that we had the angle from CASA, who was saying that two of the victims were members of their advocacy organization, and they were immigrants. And so, yeah, I mean, I think all of Baltimore is coming together right now because this really is just such a sad situation.
It's a very, very sad situation. While we applaud those who made it off safely, we still mourn with those families who had family members who were either injured or, just did not make it off of that bridge. And so I want to give a shout out to our editorial team just for jumping right into this all hands on deck, as all the media did in this area and around the world, to really respond to this. And so one of the responses that has garnered some a lot of chatter on X, formerly known as Twitter, has been around Mayor Brandon Scott. And so we have a story up, Aria and Alexis, that Word in Black provided to us late last night, pushed the deadline a little bit. We still do a print edition for those who are watching us online. We very much are digital. We very much do a digital edition, but we still do a print edition. And sometimes the print edition are the ones that people want to hold on to as keepsakes. Unfortunately, for this tragedy, that probably will be the same. But here's the headline. I want to get you all to weigh in on this. It says, as Mayor Brandon Scott handles bridge tragedy, racists blow dog whistle. So Aria, I don't know if you had a chance to even look at that story. I know, Alexis, I know you did. What did you think, Alexis, when you read that?
Looking through the different comments that have been said on social media, I mean, I'm on two sides of this. I will just start there. I'll start there and I'll say that there is something to be said on both sides of this. On one end, I think that the response from the Baltimore City mayor, who is a Black man, Mayor Brandon M. Scott, I think that his response was on point. I mean, he responded. He had the appropriate amount of sympathy and compassion for these 6 victims, but he also, showed up and led that response with Governor Wes Moore. And, a lot of people that I've been speaking with, some of them are like, why is he even at the forefront of this? Because the Key Bridge is majority in Baltimore County, except for a little tiny, tiny piece of it that is in the city. And so, I think that just goes to show that Brandon Scott does work with other leaders in this area. He's not saying that has nothing to do with us, because it's literally that last little sliver. He stepped up as a leader, and did that in the middle of the night as these tragic incidences sometimes happen. He has that relationship with the governor. He has that relationship with Baltimore County officials. And I think that his response was a testament to that he's working with the other leaders in this area. And I thought it was an appropriate response. On the other hand, I don't know how else to say it. We on the box. I don't think that he should have responded in the attire that he responded in, and that's just me. It's one of
interesting. So what about the attire? You mean the Baltimore jacket?
It wasn't that it was a Baltimore jacket, but I just didn't think it was appropriate, knowing the loss of life. I have been accused of having, these Southern respectabilities and politics going on. And yes, that I think that when it's a situation like this, I felt like he should have been dressed for a more serious event.
Oh,
And
interesting.
that's where I'm at on it. And then furthermore, I mean, to see, this is unrelated, but to see the, the hoodie at the State of the City address hours before, like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I just don't. And so
Okay.
that does lend to people making the comments, some of the comments that they are making online. And that I understand. It's not right. DEI mayor is not a term that people should be throwing around. I hear people, and even in the article from Word in Black, by Mr. Joseph Williams, people are likening that to the N word, DEI
Uh-huh.
mayor.
Okay. What do you think about that, Aria?
Yeah, okay. So first and foremost, thank you for getting me afloat because I wasn't aware of all of this that was going on. I think that's a shame, and I think that that's inappropriate, extremely inappropriate, might I add, because I feel like you said, he took the proper precautions. He handled it well, which is addressing the situation, stepping into his position, doing his mayor duties. I think that there is a level of professionalism to be maintained. And when you're in a position like that, especially as a government official, there's not a lot of grace to be given. But to use those as an excuse to be racist, it's never excusable. Um, I know even before I worked for the AFRO, I remember, I think when he ran for his first term, they were like, oh my God, Baltimore's mayor has an afro. And me personally, I was like, yeah, I like it. He's real Black. He's real himself. Like, I'm not mad at that. I think that regardless of your position, you should be able to maintain a piece of your authenticity or a piece of yourself, that regardless of how people feel about it, it can show up in any room.
Okay.
Perhaps the afro is that piece of his authenticity if he needs to trade out the hoodies or the jackets for stuff like that. I will say, if it was 1 in the morning, I probably would have showed up in something that, in my opinion, I would have been like, they can't say much about this, but of course people always find something to say about it. To what you were saying though about him being called the DEI mayor, that's kind of crazy, just because I think it's interesting how we've begun to see a series of terms that are positive in their initial use be changed and turned into negative things. So just like with woke or with DEI, it's like diversity or embracing a set of knowledge that now makes you more aware of somebody else's circumstances or our nation's past. Those aren't negative things. So when you use that against me, you kind of sound silly trying to turn my term around, but so be it. I don't know. Not disagree with you, Alexis, but I'm entirely against
Well,
them
we're on the
having
box.
critique for
We're
him.
on the box. So we're on the box. I'm going to weigh in. We're on the box. First of all, he had to respond at 2 o'clock in the morning. Me, I might have been in my pajamas at 2 o'clock in the morning, regardless of what my title was. The fact is that he responded. Secondly, the pictures that I've seen from the press conference, he had on a Baltimore jacket. Governor Westmore had on a jacket, right? They both had on. So Brandon Scott has a jacket that says Brandon M. Scott Mayor with our Baltimore logo. Westmore has a jacket that says the state of Maryland. And I am looking at it from the front of the afro, which I have privilege to see. Alexis, you would have to share it, I think, from your files, but I don't think Taryn, or send it to Taryn to share from her file. And so for me, the fact that he responded, I don't care. What, at least he had clothes on. I can't imagine
Y'all would have
more
got
than
me in
that.
a house dress personally.
Yeah.
Like,
So this is a different. So this is a different picture here. This is a picture from the press conference yesterday, and from Baltimore with love was a slogan that I know Associated Black Charities used a couple years ago, and so I think he's sending a message there as well. Hey, we love the community. So for me, Aria, and for me, Alexis, the fact that he showed up in his authentic self was fine. I didn't even notice. I didn't pay attention. I didn't to what he was wearing. I paid attention to what he was saying, the empathy that he had for the families, and I didn't even look at it as a protocol moment for
I
me.
concur, Dr. Draper.
Yeah,
I
that was.
completely.
I mean, we're on the box. That's just me, And a lot of times, it's the people in my generation that are like, "Man, they should have dressed up. They should have been here. They should have done this." But for me, I would, like I said, I didn't see that. I was like, I don't know what I would have been able to say in that circumstance, right? Mic in your face, doing that. And now they had their protocol set out about who was going to speak and what government authority was where. So trust me, they had that all they had that all worked out. And so we're gonna Taryn, you just got the PDFs of the pic. Well, one picture you just showed, and then we have the front page picture. We got some pushback on social media ourselves that people don't like the picture of Governor Westmore with his arm around Mayor Brandon Scott. I know what's up with that. What y'all think? What's up with that? Why folks pushing back on that?
Personally, when it comes to priorities, one of my favorite phrases to use when talking about it is there are bigger fish to fry. Y'all worried about smelt, and we got some catfish lined up. Okay. So I say that to say that what he had on, how they shared that moment of camaraderie and kind of comforting each other is such the least of our worries. People have passed away, unfortunately. There is an entire bridge that is no longer in existence. Both government officials responded wonderfully to this tragedy. The city of Baltimore is still healing and dealing with this. And y'all are worried about what these people have on. I just feel like this is a case of people being nitpicky. And to what you said about your generation, Dr. Draper, I agree. I think the older generation has an appreciation for dressing up that perhaps I know for a fact my generation does not value. And that's okay. Everybody has their differences, but I feel like if you can't look past what they're wearing to focus on this event yourself, then you don't really care. You're faking the funk. You couldn't possibly care about the lives of these people if you're not actually worried about it, and you're instead worried about what Governor Moore and what Mayor Scott are wearing. That's
Okay,
my
so
take.
Alexis, you look like okay. That's your take. So that was Aria's box moment. I had my box moment. What saith you, Alexis? Anything else you want to
Okay.
say
The
about it?
first thing is that this press conference did not happen at 2 o'clock in the morning. The
You're talking about yesterday's press conference, right?
No, I'm talking about the press conference that took place at 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday.
Okay, so early morning. Go ahead.
So, I mean, it was 7 o'clock. Like, yes, he probably immediately rushed off. I'm not saying that that is the primary thing, or what, people should be focused on, but how you present yourself, and especially in a event that is going global. I consider all that. I'm sorry. Like, that's, how you present yourself. I want our mayor to be seen in the best light for people who don't know the culture here, for people who don't know what to Baltimore with love means. People in Mexico, people across, all across the world have seen this. Not saying that that is the priority. Absolutely not. I mean, it's the priority is those people who were injured and the people who lost their lives. But for sure, I mean, this has been something that I've been hearing, not just with this. I've been hearing, we have been hearing it since he started growing out the afro. I didn't have any issues with the afro. I mean, there's a difference between showing your Black pride and showing, your culture. But to me, I'm sorry. Like, I just feel like you're the mayor. Somebody on your team should hand you a shirt and a jacket. I don't even care about the jeans on bottom. Somebody on your team should hand you a blazer and a button down so you can address these families, in more appropriate attire. But no, I'm not saying that that's most important. And I don't think that if you make that comment about what he's wearing, that means that you don't care as much about the people who have lost their lives.
Okay. So one thing about the chicken box, we can agree to disagree, right? So if you're just tuning in, this is the Chicken Box, powered by the 131-year Afro American newspapers. We just go by Afro News now. And you're on here with me, Francis Tony Draper, Aria Brent, who is one of our writers, as well as the host of our very popular cooking show, our managing editor, Alexis Taylor. And we ourselves don't want to get mired in the minutia of what, but it was an issue. I brought it up because we have a story in this week's paper where it'll be online shortly from Word in Black by Joseph Williams, who just is calling out all of what was posted on Twitter. And it wasn't about attire. It's just, we expect, some of us expect that we put our blackness in a box. And so he says authentically who he is. Alexis, hey, there are people that are going to say, yes, you are right. Exactly. That's how I feel. There are other people that are going to feel like Aria, the people that'll feel like I am. And I do rather. But the main thing, keeping the main thing right now certainly is around this whole tragedy. And so we grieve with the families. We offer our sincere condolences, and it's for the entire city. The entire city. I mean, today is opening day of the Orioles, so I'm on my way to the game after we get off the box, and some people are saying that's going to lift our spirits. And another story that we did, I want to talk about really quickly before we hop off the box today, is the tremendous economic impact on the area and on the nation because of the importance of this port and what we did. And so either Aria or Alexis, I don't know, Aria, if you've had a chance to, hear any of the or read any of the stories around the economic impact, but we have an original story that we also are posting. Alexis, you want to say a little bit? Aria, one of you want to jump in on that?
Sure, I'll jump in here. So we had our Afro business reporter, Ms. Megan Sales, do an article on the economic impact of losing such an important bridge. Already yesterday, I was seeing, you can see it, the traffic. You can, if you are in this area, when the Key Bridge is out, because all of those cars and vehicles that would normally be going over the Key Bridge now have to take different routes. Specifically, it has caused an issue because you can't take hazardous materials through the tunnel here in Baltimore. And so if you have hazardous materials, all of those trucks and all of that flow of traffic has to go somewhere else. And so, the Port of Baltimore is very busy. Megan Sales did a report on this. She had a chance to speak with Mr. Mark Anthony Thomas, who's the president and CEO of the Greater Baltimore Committee. And what he said in this article was that, this is a loss. It has been proclaimed as an accident. The governor and NTSB have said that they don't think that it's any type of terrorist attack or anything like that, but that it is going to be a significant loss. In her article, she talks about how the Port of Baltimore contributes $3.3 billion in personal income to the local economy here. We know that 6 of the people who lost their lives, they were workers. So while there will be significant work around the cleanup and that aspect of this recovery, there are people who are out of jobs. There are jobs tied to the bridge. I would say it that way. And so it's going to impact us. I'm already seeing people say it took them 2 hours to get home from work because everything is just congested. That's going to impact people's wallets as they're putting gas in their cars, as they're considering their time. If you live in that area, God bless you. Because it's going to be, it's going to be a big change there. But yeah, that's what this article is about. Just talking about the economic impact.
It's going to be a big economic impact, even for the small businesses and others that are, people can't get to their business, and the impact on the people who worked on the bridge, who had contracts, and those who now are stuck in the port, who are exporting things or expecting things to be imported. So because Baltimore is the ninth busiest port in the country, and the largest one for the import of vehicles that then go all over the country. And so it is a major port. Somebody said to me this morning, I didn't realize Baltimore had a major port. Well, we have a major port there, and we have another one at the Port of Baltimore, and the cruise ships come in and out. And so one of our cruise ships that was due to dock in Baltimore was rerouted, I think, to Norfolk as a result of the accident. We've got 1 minute or 2 minutes left. And so want to give Aria and Alexis time to jump on the box. But first, I want to thank those of you who have tuned in on this afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Bonnie Deans, I saw your comment. When can we just be us? When can we be us? In all of our glory. Do we always have to conform? That's another chicken box. Do we have to conform? Do we have to conform to somebody else's expectations? Right? can we just be us? Can we just, can we just be our natural, beautiful faces and bodies that God created us to be? And so that's another discussion in terms of expectations. And so, Alexis, I think you're right on some of that. I'm on the box now. I'm going to get off and let you all get on. I think you're right about some of that. We have molds. We have things that we think people should be in. Um, and so some of that is pulling in on the stereotypes about who Black people are. So I hope that our readers, and those who have not yet really tuned into what our coverage is, this is very balanced coverage that we have, but it's through our lens as the Afro-American newspapers, as it should be. So check us out, not just for this week's edition, but please subscribe. For less than the cost of two Uber Eats, as Impeccable would say, you can get a subscription to AFRO.com. I think it's like $40 for the whole year. And you can get the digital edition. And some would, if you would prefer the print, if you sign up for the print, which is less than $10 a month, you get the digital as a bonus. Come on, y'all, we can't beat that. Okay, and last time I looked at my streaming service bill, we just can't beat that. All right, I'm off the box. I'm going to, Aria, you're on the box for final words. And then Alexis, you're on the box, and then we'll sign off.
Yes, ma'am. So while I'm on the box, I say this. Obviously, Baltimore is in need of a lot of things right now, prayer being one of them, community being the second thing. And then, obviously, like you said, some thoughts going towards how this is going to affect the economy. I think that we should focus on those as opposed to the fashion choices of Mayor Scott. So, what Alexa said earlier, because I think that she made a great point that I do not have any recognition with because I'm not a native Baltimorean. If this has kind of been a series of instances where he hasn't been his most professional dress, then yes, I can see why you guys were frustrated about that. Nonetheless, and I recognize that you weren't condoning the comments, Alexis, but I do think that to take those instances and use them for a reason to be racist is absolutely unacceptable, especially at this time when, like I said, togetherness and community is needed in the Baltimore area. So, of course, working for the Afro, we'll continue to cover this. I'm super excited for what is to come. Super hopeful as well. And yeah, that is what I have to say on the box.
Okay, thank you, Aria. Alexis, you're on the box.
All right,
You get the final word.
I will say that
maybe.
I stand by what I said. No, I mean, it isn't about what Mayor Scott had on. And like you said, Aria, that does not at all excuse or that can't be used as an excuse for what is being said. I mean, people are taking that, and not all of it wasn't all focused on what he was wearing. I mean, they're just talking in general about him being a young Black mayor who is making change, who is out there standing on business, as the young people say. But he is doing amazing things for the city of Baltimore, and you can't refute that, regardless of any hate thrown towards him. He keeps moving, and I will give it to Mayor Scott. It's like if he does take it personal, you can't tell, because the work, I don't think, has suffered. He is day in and day out. I mean, if you're in Baltimore, you see Mayor Scott everywhere, and you don't just see him out just to be photographed in the community. Like, he's out talking to people, getting solutions, trying to make change and making change. And so, of course, what he has on as he does it is the least of the worries here in the city. The attacks online are unwarranted, and it didn't stop at him. It went to the Black people in leadership at all points of this. I see them attacking the Black people who are on the Port of Baltimore staff. And so, at some point, we really just have to say there's a problem here. DEI is being attacked across the country, and this is the latest iteration of that. So that's my box. I will say that if you check our story that is up on AFRO.com right now, talking about the loss of immigrants' lives in this tragedy, I understand, and I do want to say that community has been hit hard. These immigrants came here, and they weren't, they had established a life here in Maryland. They had jobs here. They worked here, some of them for decades. This was their home. You know, this was their new home. This is the place that they chose. And they're doing a service. The immigrants in this country, I know there's this thing out there, you know, immigrants are lazy. They're not. They're keeping our bridges working. They're keeping our roadways intact. And unfortunately, 6 of them lost their lives in this. So my final word is just thank you to them for their service. And I'm sorry that they lost their lives in this tragedy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And quiet as it's kept, all of us are immigrants. And some of those who work on the bridge are American citizens who happen to have a different background, but all of us are immigrants. That's another whole whole discussion. But thank you, ladies. Very engaging discussion. Thank you to those who are watching it live or who will watch this later. As we say, don't be a chicken. Get on the box. If you have an idea for a chicken box topic, would you put it in? There it is. Email our producer right on time. It's right there on the screen. And we want to say to those who are either observing Ramadan a little later, not right this weekend, but Passover or Easter, have a blessed holiday, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, ladies.